Welcome to our first online class for a while. We are focusing on total revenue management, and we'll have a few classes on this topic. And this is the first one, appropriately called TRM Start Now. So that's coming up. We have Detlev Remy and Anders Johannson, who are going to present the class. It'll be about 90 minutes. There'll be some time for you to ask some questions at the end. I got a few questions from people when they registered, but you'll get a bit of time at the end. Just to start, I'll just give you a quick overview of HSMAI Academy and the things that we're doing and other things you can take part in. So HSMAI stands for Hospitality Sales and Marketing Association International, and the Academy is, of course, where we keep all our certifications, online courses, and other sorts of educations like online classes and face-to-face classes. Let me get the click happening. Okay. Those of you who know us, HSMAI probably know us for the CRME, that's the most famous one. The CHDM is the digital marketing certification, and the CHBA is a business acumen one, which is a simulation of running a hotel for over a 6-week period. And the good news is the sales certification has been completely rewritten and will be returning probably about the end of the year. So that'll be good for the sales folks. We have 2 programs of online learning, one's in revenue management and one's in digital marketing. So the certification is to prove that you already know, and these 2 online programs are to learn about these 2 topics. Then we've got some more classes coming up. So the Detlev and Anders show will return on the 19th of October. The next one is going to be developing your total revenue management culture. So that's a really important one and key to success with TRM. We've got a fantastic session from Heidi Gempel about the effective hotelier, and apparently this will save you an hour to an hour and a half a day, not a week, a day, if you can watch this. So it's a recorded one, so we'll send you the link after this session. And then there's a couple more coming up that we're going to do as live webinars. One's how to use AI, and that's specifically for salespeople. And the other one is how to read the STAR report, which is kind of really for non-revenue people, because revenue people already know, right? So that's a few things that are coming up soon on the education side. There's some new online courses launched. There's some topics up on the screen now. There's some, they're the type of ones you can do on demand. So it'll just take 90 minutes to 3 hours, depending how much you already know, to do each of those courses. There's 24 courses altogether, so that's just a range of the newer ones that are in the Academy. And we do cover everything from revenue, leadership, sales, and marketing. So have a look in there and see how you go. So that's my really speedy introduction. The URL is hsmaiacademy.org, so you'll be able to find any of those things as well as classes like these in that website. So without further ado, I will hand over to Detlev and Anders, and we can all learn about how to get going with total revenue management.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Sharing.
Most importantly, the question is, can you see?
Okay, we can see your shared screen. So if you swap your...
Which was it now moving? Can you see it moving?
I can see it moving, but I can still see your note, the next slide, the presenter screen.
Oh, we are here.
That's it. That looks good.
It.
Done.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay, perfect. Warm welcome from Singapore, and also Anders from Sweden. Are you in Sweden right now, or where are you?
I'm in Stockholm, Sweden. Yes.
Wonderful. Okay, a quick introduction, my person, and then Anders, please. I'm associate professor at SIT, Singapore Institute of Technology. This is the 5th autonomous university in Singapore. And we run our specialty business degree program apart from other schools, medicine, and engineering, ICT, etc., etc. Before that, I was in Switzerland and in Ireland. This is my third career and my last career. Hooray, hooray, because I plan for retirement. No, in a couple of years, whatever. My first career in the hotel industry up to the GM level, second career consultancy, which I still run. And my research interest in revenue management metrics. You know, we talk about ADR, RevPAR, but we have to move on to more, or let's say better or optimized measurements. And all over, I think my last count was 30 years hospitality industry experience, maybe a bit more. And now up to you, Anders.
Yeah, so I have a long career within the hospitality industry. I've been the CEO for small hotel companies. I've had my own hotel company with 5 hotels spread all over Sweden. And I've been consulting quite a lot for different hotel groups in Northern Europe. I've also started early with the revenue management already back in the 1980s, before it was almost invented. And I've tried my teaching skills a little bit at one of the universities here in Sweden, and I did 5-week courses for 18 years. And since about 10 years now, I have my own software company. We are 10 people in the company, and we provide a commercial system for hotels for functions with marketing, sales, and revenue.
And you produce white papers and loads of blogs, not to forget this part, which is really good and interesting to read.
Lots of blogs. I think I have 250 blog posts now on demandcalendar.com/blog. So you're welcome. It's not salesy at all. It's more informative blog posts.
So today's masterclass, today's webinar, what will you learn, or what shall you learn? First of all, what is TRM? Because there are kind of different ideas or perspectives on TRM. Secondly, how to make it work. And then we discuss and we try to discuss and collaborate on developing kind of action plan. And just one question maybe some of you might have in mind, and we would be very happy to receive it, you know, talking about the first steps to step into TRM practice. Because if you are not sure what the first steps, you will maybe never thinking of applying TRM. And in these times, it's more important than ever to think, really to think and to plan and to execute TRM. So the concept, amazingly, was already discussed 10, 15 years ago in theory. We hear sometimes from industry practitioners that they run TRM, but if you look then a bit more into the background and the details, it's not really total revenue management so far. But the need is there, especially now after COVID or post-COVID, the need is there to recoup losses from COVID. But of course, also we have, unfortunately, still this silo thinking in our industry that sales works on their own marketing and revenue management. And it's also about gaining synergy effects and of course also cutting costs. I think one of the most important aspects is definitely that we should shift away from inventory centric to customer centric. Customers are really our asset. Every hotel owner might declare its number of rooms, the inventory, but we should learn from other industries, especially service industries. Customers are the most important assets. Anders, please, anytime, please.
Yep, I can continue here. It's
thank you.
So total revenue management, it's all the revenue sources from all the revenue generating departments. It's sometimes a bit confusing if you have the revenue management perspective and you think about rooms and then you say, okay, how can I increase my revenue? I can sell more ancillary revenues like laundry services, movies, internet access, business center, minibar, and so on. But that's not what we are talking about. That's a very small piece of the pie. So we are talking about all other revenue sources like food and beverage, meeting and events, parking, spa, golf, all types of activities, and so on.
Now, why or what are the benefits of applying total revenue management? First and foremost, clearly to increase revenues, to optimize revenues. And then if you follow the principles of revenue management, it's really to optimize revenues without adding resources. That means in simple terms, without adding any cost. That's important. So everybody can optimize revenues by adding cost factors, investing in manpower, cost of sales, etc., make your portions bigger, whatever. But the art and science of revenue management is really to optimize revenues, which then, without adding resources, also in turn increase the profits. So that's an important aspect. Of course, also improve pricing strategy. If you align all the revenue generating departments into one total revenue management, you have, of course, also then an optimized pricing strategy. You can allocate resources much better. And the aim and the goal is also to improve customer satisfaction.
Yeah, so there are some challenges, and the first challenge is probably getting the data. And today in most hotel companies, all the data sits in siloed systems in each department. So that's the first challenge that you have to start to deal with. The second one is to have some kind of guest journey and understand the guest flow and the guest spending in all the outlets. And there are a few lacking things in this as well. And we come back to this. What are the metrics that you can use in order to measure this? And then a third problem or challenge is the segmentation. How can you actually segment the guests and maybe based on some other factors than you traditionally use, maybe high spending guests, low spending guests, those kind of things. And also where to start is also a challenge. And you should probably start in the biggest revenue streams, of course. So if you have a restaurant or several food and beverage outlets, you start there. If you have a lot of meeting space, maybe you start there, and so on.
Oh, sorry. Now, there are, in general, okay, there are a couple of approaches, but the main or the most important approaches are two of them, and one is called the siloed approach, and the other one holistic approach to total revenue management. There are different ways to manage TRM, but let's look at the key differences of both approaches. Siloed, as the name indicates, we focus on individual revenue streams. We have then separate systems and process for each revenue stream, leading, of course, then to siloed data and decision-making processes. Thus, as a consequence, you miss definitely cross-selling opportunities. There's limited coordination between different revenue streams, different exchange of information and knowledge. This might result, not necessarily all the time, in quite suboptimal pricing strategies, as prices said, without considering the impact on other revenue streams. It could work, and I'm not necessarily against this, and Anders will definitely talk really in favor of this as a starting point. But I'm a bit skeptical of this because the whole concept of total revenue management is really to look at the totality of revenue. But it's a challenging process, and so we have to be quite careful about this. Sorry, I always go wrong. And the holistic approach, I guess, Anders, you will like to talk about the holistic approach.
Yes, so this is my favorite approach and Detlev's favorite approach as well. And it starts with the customer or the guest. And if I refer to Peter Drucker, the management guru of the management gurus, he said that the purpose of business is to create a customer. And that is something that we need to keep in mind in the hotel industry as well. The guest should be in the center of everything that we actually do. So this is to focus on maximizing the revenue per guest and really understand the guest needs and the guest behaviors and everything about the guest. So from the time when the guest books a room, then you have a huge number of opportunities to upsell, to sell more, to introduce things to the guest that they can buy to become even more satisfied with their stay in the hotel. And research also shows that the more you buy from someone, the more satisfied you tend to be. So this is our favorite. But as Detlev said, that I'm also vouching a little bit for the siloed approach, because now we are talking about how to get started. And if you want to get started, make it easy. An easy start is to start to apply revenue management principles on each siloed department or each outlet as a starting point. And once you have gained a lot of knowledge within each revenue source or revenue stream, then you can put it all together in the more holistic approach.
Yeah. And as you started with quotations, in this case from Peter Drucker, may I refer to Martin Luther King, I have a dream. And my dream is in this case really that we know our customer, we value our customer, and we not only acquire customers all the time, we retain our customers and the most valuable customers. And just imagine, we know the likes and preferences and all this about the customers, and they come back, they are satisfied, we make them happy, they are more satisfied. They talk in favor of our hotel, they work as our own hotel brand ambassadors, and they will stay forever with us or with our other properties within our chain. Just imagine this. Technology allows for this. The data can be collected and processed. So it's up to us to enable this. But it's sometimes shocking how much or how not that much our industry knows about our customers. I have my hobby or my obsession of staycations. So I travel around a lot here in Southeast Asia, but also sometimes in Europe. And when I go sometimes a second, third, fourth, fifth time to a hotel where I already stayed before, and of course they don't recognize me, they have thousands of customers. But if it comes to taking my contact details, etc., the system should recognize this, and it doesn't. And this is rather scary. If you go to any gas station, if you go to any retailer, they ask you for your phone number or for your name, and the system immediately recognizes you, and you get your points and recognition, etc. And our industry is not capable in general. Of course, there are always some exemptions where it runs very well to identify its loyal customers. So the opportunity is there, but unfortunately not often used. And total revenue management is one chance to move in this direction. There is a smaller scientific model called CCRM, customer-centric revenue management, Ben, we know from the early 2000s, where the focus is really to combine marketing and revenue management, customer-centric revenue management. So to move away from the short-term transaction-based revenue management without considering customer retention, customer loyalty, customer satisfaction, to really combining long-term relationship goals with short-term transaction, combining this into customer-centric revenue management. Now, total revenue management, as we discuss it, is really on the way to a customer orientation where we focus on our customers as the most important assets. And then it includes also in the customer journey from the very beginning, inspiration, dreaming, to a post-stay behavior pattern, etc. Now, let's talk about practice, action, implementation plan. The starting point is initiating. What is the aim of this project, and to identify stakeholders involved? What are the typical stakeholders involved? General manager, definitely revenue manager or director of revenue management, head of departments, and not to forget CFO, chief financial officer. Okay. These are the main stakeholders. There might be others you can invite for this. but they must be on board and they must be convinced, and they must be convinced from this project that they are part of this journey.
Yeah, I can add there also that maybe even the owner of the hotel needs to be in the stakeholder among the stakeholders, because there even if Detlev said that we are not going to invest a lot of money in total revenue management, well, that's maybe not 100% true. We still need to invest something, and we still need to invest time. We probably need to invest in some kind of system solutions or gathering data, and that type of tasks will need some investments also. So someone is going to pay for the investment in total revenue management also. And another aspect of this, if you cannot sell this to the general manager, there is no way it's going to be successful, because this cannot be only driven by the revenue manager. You have to involve all these stakeholders.
Absolutely, Anders, you are as always absolutely right. Very important, if possible, to be involved with the owner or the asset manager. Yes, it comes to the cost. The cost is debatable, but definitely it's a matter of resources, about time factor, it's about trainings, even software solutions, interfaces, whatever comes to the cost. And it's not really that you will receive a return of investment after 3 months, whatever. So it takes some time. But for the future, and also in order to stay in the business, to stay as a sustainable business there, you need to think about this, because the practice, what we run now, it's not very sustainable practice. I always get it wrong, sorry. Planning, develop a project plan. It means planning the cost, and planning the sources, planning the risk. And we have later a short exercise to talk about risk, because each of such a project, which is a major project, or you can start from a small base and keep it as a minor project, but when you have to move on to expand it, each of them definitely incorporates some risk factors. Not really big substantial risk, but risk on side of the stakeholders and shareholders. Now, executing to outline how revenue management team, revenue management department, director of revenue management, hotel managers, and general manager and other stakeholders involved will work together to develop a project. It means responsibilities, time frame, allocation of resources, etc. As always, at such project work, it's about monitoring and controlling, review change controls, and to see, and of course to act also if all the following the plan or something is left out or forgotten, and is there any action needed to solve it or to resolve it. Now my mouse, okay. Inform and convince relevant stakeholders. It's repetitive, and it's on purpose there to repeat this, because if you don't have the stakeholders on board, if you don't convince them, it doesn't work. It cannot done only by the revenue management team. You need to have stakeholders on board, and they must take action. They must feel also responsibility, but also see the goal, the long-term goal. One important aspect, often enough forgotten, which is a bit of shame, and so we are quite proud of this, that we identified such factors, but we have to get involved also our staff, our frontline staff, that we educate our frontline staff about the cost of room distribution and cost of customer acquisition. Now, this sounds that some hotels say, yeah, we do, and we train them, whatever, but I'm not so sure they do it really with a necessary seriousness. I don't know how to say it in a nice word, but the cost of distribution are a factor discussed at almost each and every industry conference, and we're always the discussion about our frenemies, our wonderful friends and enemies from the OTA side and wholesaler side, whatever. But don't forget, first of all, we need them, and secondly, it was us bringing them to the position they are in the market now. And cost of acquisition is the point. Yes, we know we have always to replace customers. We have to win new customers for a couple of reasons. But what's forgotten, once we have acquired customer, we should try everything to retain these customers, which we have acquired either on our own or via OTAs, third-party intermediaries. But the goal must be to retain them, in simple terms, to convince them to book next time direct. Sounds simple, and I know there are loads of SOPs, at the front office, what to do, to tell the staff, okay, please, customer, come back, okay, thank you very much, offer a glass of Prosecco, blah, 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 but it doesn't work. It doesn't work. Experience show it doesn't work. And sometimes there are even policies that say, we don't want to force our frontline staff, to put too much pressure on customers regarding this issue. Next thing, big issue, and we will have a separate webinar on this, separate masterclass on this, create a kind of revenue culture or yield culture, set goals, incentives, develop metrics. We can think big. We can, at the level of senior management or whatever, say we want to implement total revenue management or customer-centric revenue management or any other project. But if our stakeholders, our internal stakeholders, our brand ambassadors, our internal brand ambassadors, our staff, our frontliners don't get the idea, don't feel involved, don't feel responsible, don't see the point and the goal, then it will not work, simple as it is. Therefore, this aspect of creating a revenue or yield culture, it's of utmost importance. And I give it on purpose to Anders, the last point. Anders, define the data sets.
So this is, it's both pretty straightforward. You know where you have your data stored in all these different systems. And the tricky part is to synchronize all the data into one system, because if you want to go in the direction of the holistic total revenue management, you need to track the guest and how the guest flows over the different revenue sources. So in that case, you need to have one system where you have all the information about the guest. And it's definitely possible to do that, and systems are getting much more open nowadays, and they have open APIs, so you can easily transfer data between systems. So this is sort of working in the right direction. So there are still a lot of old systems out there that is very difficult to integrate to, but the trend is that more and more new systems are open. So this problem will hopefully in the next couple of years be less of a problem.
I'm a bit more pessimistic, and I will give you an example of why this is so important, and it makes sense to consider this. And we might even run a separate masterclass on this if there is a demand for this. Take the example of a business customer. He gets his booking done, corporate booking, etc. And by corporate policy, is not allowed he is not allowed to consume alcohol, or let's say to put the alcohol bill or the F&B bill on his room bill, whatever, for different reasons. It's common practice. Now, how we can get when the whole spending of his customer, it's quite difficult, because he might go to a bar having a couple of beers, he might pay cash or via his personal credit card, and then the system would not capture this as a revenue consumption on his bill, which is held in the PMS system. So we have a problem, and that's the reason that we have to define our data sources, our data capture, and synchronize also data flow, that we have the right APIs, right interfaces, and also the right amount of data, and also next point, quality data. So just one example to show the difficulties. Same if we go for spa, for example. Normally, business customers are not allowed to ask for compensation of spa, wellness treatments, whatever, so they pay on their own. So in this case, how do we get the full picture of a customer who is a business customer, for example, but is also spending considerable time and consuming considerable amount of money in F&B, mini bar, at a hotel bar, in spa, etc. That's one aspect we have to take in consideration.
Yeah, I can add one more thing to that, and that is the data quality also, to stress that a little bit more. It's a lot of manual handling to improve the data quality. We depend on the front office staff to actually talk to the guest and find the information, add that to the system. And if that is not done, then we don't have the right data quality, and then we can not use the information to its fullest extent. And if we look forward, and today when everyone is talking about AI, the fundamentals of AI is high data quality. You have to have data to train the AI bots on data in order for them to be of any use. And that is a huge challenge in the hotel industry. We have not yet embraced the digitalization, and now we are talking about AI, and it's still the same thing. We need the data, and we need the high data quality in order to be able to move forward in these areas as well.
If I can support Anders' point, the best example is always F&B gastronomy. We need high quality data for restaurant revenue management, for F&B revenue management, which is in most cases the second biggest revenue stream and should be the first one to be integrated in total revenue management, F&B gastronomy. Now, what is the common practice in terms of data quality? We have not clean data. What is meant by this? We need, for example, length of stay, we need average consumption, blah, 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 all these measures, metrics, whatever. But the common practice is that if a shift starts, let's say for lunch, when all waitresses and waiters open the tables at, let's say, 12 o'clock, they close all the tables at 3 o'clock, end of a shift. So the assumption is then, based on your POS system, that the customers stay there for 3 hours in a row, which is, of course, not the case. The next thing is, always button there on the POS system, diverse. That means if you have any additional potato, vegetable, whatever, diverse. Now, if you have 10,000s of Sing dollar, euro diverse, you really don't know what is standing for, what is meaning, and what is the quality of the data. It's very inaccurate. Just give you some example. Another aspect is, we might also think about another masterclass on this F&B revenue management, for example. Not all waiters and waitresses have the same sales ability. They might have the same sales a month, but some of them sell maybe main courses, others sell much more big chunk of aperos or digestive, etc., etc. So if we get the right data, the accurate data, the clean data, it's also not allows us for performance indicators, performance measurement, but also training, to train those which are maybe selling quite pricey, bulky items, and to forget the rest, to train them to sell more, to upsell, to cross-sell, etc. Data is needed, but it must be quality data. Anders, please.
Yeah, the point here is also that there is rarely a problem with the system. The system has all the functionality that's needed to be able to analyze what's going on. But the point is that you have to train your staff members to use the system in a correct way, to not to close the check after each customer, not like Detlev says, keep everything open. It's like you have to train them to both to understand the importance of the data, but also how to handle all these things manually, and how to collect the right type of data.
And if we go back to one of the previous slides, as I said, we have to involve and convince all stakeholders. Take the example of head of departments. The F&B manager, the director of a restaurant must be involved, because these are the guys who brings the message through, but also to train their staff on, for example, data capture, quality data, etc. So all these must be involved to make it work. Now,
Yeah,
Sorry.
one more thing on this. We can say I've been in the industry for such a long time, and I have heard all the excuses why we cannot do this in the food and beverage, for example. It's too stressful. We don't have time. Do you want the data, or do you want us to service the guests? Or there are so many excuses. And today, when a lot of restaurants and hotels are struggling with getting the right number of staff members into their businesses, it's probably even more excuses now that no, we don't have time to collect the right data. So there is a huge challenge in this, but it has to be solved one way or another. Otherwise, you will not be able to move forward with total revenue management.
Yeah, and then subsequently also, you will be forced out of the market once, because those organizations, those businesses which are adaptable, agile, whatever, will make it quite simple, you know. And it's all about digitalization, it's about data analytics and revenue management practice. So there's no way to follow the old path and stay in the business. Normally, it will be very challenging, let me say it this way. Identify a path to total revenue management profitability. First of all, again, involve all stakeholders, as up to the head of department, but also even smaller units. And then important is also, before you start, and this is also one of the part sometimes forgotten, run a SWOT analysis, what the department strengths and weaknesses, and also what's your value proposition. It starts at a hotel for the rooms as well. What is the value proposition that people are coming there? Okay, you might have business customers, location, etc. But what's the value proposition, for example, for leisure customers? And what's the value proposition for the restaurants? What's the value proposition for the spa, etc.? If this is clear, then also follows when the pricing strategy, and when it comes to next stage, to total revenue management practice. Of course, not knowing only the strengths and weaknesses, but also then the hard facts, the revenue and the cost structure to work on this. Within this, also identify the business flow and the key revenue drivers. Again, you can use data from the last 3 years of historical data, though I know post-COVID, we have maybe just 1 year. So we have to look at the bigger picture, in this case, 5 to 6 years back to 2018, 19, whatever, next year, and the next year is getting better. And understand the patterns, the seasonal pattern, local demand, loyalty, etc. Now, we are talking about total revenue management. Of course, we focus on revenue generating apartments, F&B, spa, MICE, etc. But they are interrelated to rooms. Rooms, we know let's say we should know our key revenue drivers in the business flow. So we might apply this principle also to F&B, for example. Now, business flow, I like always very simple processes and simple ideas to highlight what is possible, what is not possible, and where excuses would not work. A service flow or fishbone diagram, all such things, service blueprint helps. As a service blueprint, in simple terms, you know, it starts from the booking of the restaurant table to the that they arrive and they will be greeted by the host, and the host bring them to the table and present the menu. And you measure all this, how much time it takes, and where are the overlapping issues, where are the delays, how many resources you have as a one runner, one waitress, one waiter, etc., etc. And you will be surprised that there are certain stages where it's really not working very well. For example, it works all well, booking works well, host bring to a table, the menu is on the table, but nobody takes the order, for example. And one of the worst cases, what happens, especially with the restaurant industry, once you ask for the bill and they have served you very well, the food quality was excellent, and you ask for the bill, and it takes ages before they process the bill for whatever reason. And then from this moment on, you are almost forgotten. It happens nothing in terms of post sales or saying goodbye, when we can expect you again, etc., etc. Yes, it moves in the direction of marketing, but it's also total revenue management. It's all about having in mind the customer focus, the customer centricity. That's very important. Anders, you'd like to add something to this point?
Yeah, the service blueprint, another name for that is the guest journey, and that is being talked a lot about, the guest journey. And first of all, you can apply that for the hotel rooms, and it involves everything before the guest even knows about the hotel, but also what the hotel can do is to refine the guest journey within the hotel, from the time of booking until departure from the hotel. And the same principles can be applied for smaller guest journeys within the hotel, like in F&B. What is the guest journey from the booking or making a table reservation to arrival to taking the order and so on, and finally the payment. So that is super important, and I think the hotel industry has a lot of things to learn from other industries in terms of understanding processes and how well they can serve both the hotel in terms of lower cost of doing the business, but also and the most important part is to make guests even more satisfied.
I just would like to add something also, Anders. Thank you very much. It's really good stuff. I just came back from last week from a trip to Thailand, and I stayed for a couple of days in a hotel, a nice hotel in Bangkok. And we have a nice Spanish restaurant. It's really nice, but it's always empty. And I go to this hotel now a couple of times, and it's still empty. It's all the time empty. And I would like to help them. It's maybe in my blood, whatever, something like this. So, and when I ask them, what are you doing to promote this? Because it's a nice restaurant. We're doing a great job there. It's nice ambient. Food is great. Service is great. So what's going wrong? No, Prof, we do everything. We promote it. We have ads in the newspapers, on the radio. We have ads in the elevator, and we have ads in the hotel room. I said, that's fine, but it's not really very much making the customers in your hotel. Let's talk about these customers, which are important one because they spend the evening there. There might be the best customers, the potential customers for this restaurant, you know, to make you really aware, because all this it takes the efforts of a customer to look at the desk, you know, to look at the television, to get the ads, etc., etc. I said the best thing is you can do, and this is really total revenue management practice. At the check-in times, at 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock, have a small display of your restaurant, your Spanish restaurant, the lobby area. Customers checking in, you give them some cannabis to get the flavor, to get an idea. There's a Spanish restaurant, blah, 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 all such things. Now, that means involve all the stakeholders. You have to think together, to collaborate together, to make such things work. You have a restaurant, you have your room reservation, and they say in theory, yes, we inform each other, we do, but they are not really this spillover effect you need to have. So in this case, we need to think a bit out of the box to let our brain work, how we can really bring it to our customers. Not that our customers should find us, we should bring it to the customers. Just one idea how to make it work in practice. Now let me move on. Review your value proposition. I mentioned this already. This is a big, big issue. If you are not unique, if you are not offering something special or value for money, whatever it is, when you have a problem when it comes to pricing, definitely to pricing, to demand issues as well, because you are just one out of many. So this is one major aspect. This is pure marketing, I know, but this is the part of marketing needed in revenue management, and especially in total revenue management. You need to have something unique. You have to have a value proposition. Again, involve all the stakeholders, how they view this. And you might be surprised if you ask the director of restaurants, if you ask the F&B manager, what is the value proposition of your F&B outlets? When you ask the same question in a separate discussion round, your waitresses, your waiting staff, and you might be a bit concerned that they have a different idea about the value proposition. And then there's already something wrong. And when you ask some customers and you get a different opinion, a third opinion, and then you realize there's something going very much wrong. By the way, what the customers think it's a value position, it is the value position, not what we think we are or we offer. That's not really that much relevant. Anyway, check for trends, demand patterns, and your matching offers. Investigate customer flow. Again, service blueprint. You might be surprised that they are, take this example of happy hour. Happy hour, it's still running. It's running since, I think, 50 years. I always wonder. And nowadays, at my time, as I was young, the happy hour was from 6 to 7 o'clock. Now we have happy hour from 3 o'clock in the afternoon till 9 o'clock in the evening. This is, first of all, it's not happy hour, it's happy hours. And secondly, there's something wrong. If you discount that long time period, there's something wrong. So look at the customer flow, at pattern, etc., time spent, and consumption pattern. Also consumption patterns, if you check your POS system, for example, but they are always the same items running all the time. But it's the question, are the other items on the menu well promoted? Are they well displayed? Are they part of a training program for upselling, cross-selling, all such things? That's an issue we have to investigate. That's our job. And it's all part of TRM practice. And of course, remove obstacles and barriers for revenue optimization. Now it starts with the booking process, and take again this example of restaurants gastronomy. Have you ever tried to book a table at, let's say, 10 o'clock in the morning for lunch? Try, but it will not be very successful. The good old way is to call the restaurant. 10 o'clock, you will maybe have a chat with the chef. He's cooking, but he will not take any reservation. So optimize these processes. That's one of the success factors of third-party intermediaries, OTAs, and nowadays also for the restaurant industry, when they take this part, of course, at a cost. So you have to pay for this performance of your third-party intermediaries. But important is, look at each and every step of the process, customer journey or service blueprint, make it as simple as possible, as convenient as possible, and integrate upselling opportunities as well. Our hotel industry is not really good if it comes to upsell anything else apart from the rooms inventory. You can get a better room, a more spacious room, a bigger television size or whatever, but can you book within your stay also a wellness treatment? Can you book already a dinner? Can you book whatever is possible? Normally, our hotel software, our existing software would not allow for this. And this is a challenge. If you look at other industries, you can buy everything what you want. So we have to work on this. But within not that much investment to simplify the booking process, not really a big challenge, and to make it as simple, convenient, and to think about upselling opportunities, definitely it's not a challenge on its own. And as you like to add?
Yeah, I'd like to add something on the value proposition. I think we have been a bit lazy in the hotel industry because it's been too easy to operate a hotel, and we have also been more focused on our occupancy rates and just bringing in anyone into our beds in the hotels. But total revenue management is more about understanding the guest and finding the guests that has the best fit for the hotel and that can spend the most in all the different facilities and buy products and services from the hotel. So the value proposition has to be very much targeted to specific customers. So it all starts with making sure that you have selected the right type of customers, and 100% occupancy might not be the most successful, and it's rarely the most successful way forward. It's the more successful way forward is to make the specific target audience super happy with the hotel, because that will spread a good word to other similar customers, and they will spend more in all the departments of the hotel, and thereby maximize the total revenue. So it's more becoming more customer centric or guest centric. That is the important part here.
Yeah, thank you very much. Then following this, what we discussed now in the previous slides, we have to organize responsibility processes. The good old question, who is responsible and who takes responsibility? Again, involve all the stakeholders and share information. By the way, also some extra point, share information. It's getting better in the hotel industry, but in my times I remember, and it's still unfortunately in many hotel businesses, but many staff don't get even the basic metrics about occupancy, RevPAR, etc., also cost of acquisition, such things, you know. And in this case, really sharing information with all the stakeholders is important to get them on board. Lines of reporting, and most importantly, we should really think about a separate masterclass on this data flow. That we also identify the data flow, but also who have access to data, who has to feed the data, who has to control this, the whole data management process. And create a data revenue optimization culture. It's about really optimization of total revenue. Again, stakeholders involved, yes, share information. It's interdepartmental, it's flexible, multitasking workforce, and we have to develop and to use data analytics for KPIs, sharing and benchmarking. In a certain way, it's about incentives, but it's also about the benchmarking internal, to a lesser extent, external benchmarking to show where we can do better, where we have more potential, and where we have areas of improvement. Yeah.
Yeah, so the responsibilities and how to organize this is the first thought would probably be to tell the revenue manager, okay, now you should revenue manage all the revenue sources. But that might backfire because there are very, very, very few revenue managers that have any time left for starting to work on all the different revenue sources. And it's also a knowledge problem. The revenue management in food and beverage is very different from revenue management in hotel rooms. And it needs to be more like a collaboration between the revenue managers and the food and beverage managers, if we talk about restaurant revenue management. Because they have to learn a little bit from each other how things work practically from the food and beverage manager, and the revenue manager can bring some theories and ideas how to work with pricing and maybe optimization and so on. So this is also something that needs to be thought through carefully before you just move ahead. And the collaboration between department heads and revenue management is the key to success.
Yeah. Now, in the interest of time, I think now we are not running out of time, but we have to speed up a bit. I try to control the watch. So a quick I think just fireside chat between Anders and myself, you know, what are the possible risks? If I start with what I would foresee as a possible risk, Anders, I would say, we could maybe annoy our customers. They might not like the idea of total revenue management because it looks for them that in, let's say, in high season or in peak periods, everything goes up in price, not only the rooms getting pricier, but also when the F&B offers, the parking it's more expensive, the mice, any wedding or whatever event I plan there, it's getting more expensive, and not to end up then with spa wellness. So this would be one risk, the customer perception of total revenue management. Would you agree on this?
Both yes and no. I think you are right that it's every customer is sort of sensible about pricing, and everyone wants to have a good deal. But I also think that customers that come in for different seasons and reasons, they don't know that much that we think. They don't know about what was the pricing last year, or what was the pricing last week, or so they have basically no idea what is the normal room price or price for a specific item on the menu. And I've been touring Europe and talked about profit-oriented revenue management and total revenue management, and I met some revenue managers and hoteliers from different hotel groups, and one of them said that they had implemented total flexible pricing, dynamic pricing for their menus. So they had iPads with menus, and they could actually change the pricing for the menu items several times per day. So, and they actually applied that, and they had no problems with that whatsoever from a customer perspective, because the customers did, or the guests did not know what was the normal price anyway. They just were presented the menu, and they could select items from the menu. So, so there are new technologies now, and I think that we in the industry, we know more than the customer, and we should also think about that. But I think that you're 100% right. We need to be careful about this. We need to, we cannot annoy the customer. That's a definite no. So pay attention to this risk, and make sure that you do this right.
I agree, and I fully agree, as always with you, Anders. It's to avoid a bit overstretching across all the departments, but it's also linked to a value proposition. I think if you have a clear, distinctive value proposition, you can allow much more price flexibility accepted by customers. If your product, on the other hand, is failing, or it's not that great as it should be, or perceived as it should be, then of course you have problems we can already foresee. Another risk, what I would see in implementing total revenue management, is what you mentioned just a few minutes ago. It's definitely, we have to be careful. We don't want to create the perception in this masterclass that it's all the revenue manager who's doing all the work. Because as you said, revenue managements are per se trained very much in the rooms division, and they are the expert in this field. If it comes to gastronomy and spa, wellness, MICE, they are not necessarily always the right fit, or they have the right skills. And even they might be saying, no, I don't have the expertise, blah, blah, blah. So we have to be very careful with this. That's the idea why we always talk about the collaboration, involvement of stakeholders to minimize this risk. Because if the idea is that the revenue management team should do all the work, then it will not work, then it will not be implemented correctly, because we need this collaborative model to involve all the relevant stakeholders.
Another risk that I see is that you think that, wow, this looks good. And if you think about it, and if you make some calculations, you will see that you will be able to increase your profit significantly. But one risk is that you push this a little bit too fast. I think you have to have a step-by-step implementation in order to get this to work. If you push it too fast, it's a big risk that it won't work, because people will not be able to change that quickly. You have to have a step-by-step plan in order to get successful with this.
Absolutely. Let's move on. We thought also to give some time for developing a sample plan altogether, but the webinar would not really allow this, but also in the interest of time, we have to move a bit forward. So we developed a sample plan. And Anders, would you like to start with?
Yeah. So start with a short introduction. So this is also laid out in the white paper that you can download from HSMAI about total revenue management. So you have to clarify the purpose. Why are you starting to work with total revenue management? And then here is an example that the purpose is to maximize guest spending, and by that maximize the revenue for our hotel, including the 2 restaurants, the bar, meeting rooms, and spa. And so clarify the purpose in the introduction.
Yeah, definitely. And then the next step is to analyze the local market to understand customer trends but also very important, their competition. The old problem in applying revenue management, is it revenue management rooms only, or is it revenue management in terms of total revenue management? If your competition doesn't follow in these basic principles, you might run into a problem, because if your value proposition is not that strong, that is, you really have a unique and distinctive proposition, that means customer might make their comparison based on price only, and then you run into problems. So this is a bit point. We have to look at the competition always, but also to learn from them what they are doing. And you might be surprised that maybe some of your competitors doing already a great job where you can follow suit. And of course, these efforts to look at the local market to understand the customer needs and competition helps us to identify optimization opportunities, potential. So what information to look for? Who is in charge of this? What has been done? What is the time frame? And how to do so? Okay. Now, if you look at trends, for example, if you look at the bigger picture and trends, one of the best sources is definitely social media, where you can identify sometimes stupid trends, but these are trends people like. And if people like it, it makes sense to think about these trends, not necessarily apply it all the times, but to look at this. If you look at the bigger picture from the rooms perspective, for example, the big trend now post-COVID is not really as a surprise for me, you know, that corporate travel, business travel is not that strong recovery as we see it for leisure, for example. We have this aspect of leisure. So there are certain trends we have to consider, we have to investigate and identify in which way they can help us, you know, to optimize our revenue. Okay, revenue sources. Anders.
Yeah, then you go through all the different revenue sources. You need to fully understand the dynamics of every single revenue source, and you set some kind of some principles for how you will handle every single revenue source. So rooms, that's something that we all know about already with dynamic pricing. And if you move into food and beverage, then maybe starting to think about dynamic pricing strategies a little bit, and also in the beginning focus on finding the right data and the right quality data to understand more about the business and what is driving the business. Then if we move to the next slide, we see the following revenue sources. Then we have meeting and events, and the same thing here. You think about how should you work with that, and in this case it's probably even more important with the value proposition, and also for each single customer it's about personalizing an offer that will actually get you the deal and the reservation into the hotel. And then if we think about spa as an example of other type of revenue sources, then you need to define that also and figure out what type of data and insights do you need in order to drive the sales, and especially from high spenders and potential high spenders. So there are some revenue principles that could be applied in all the revenue sources, but it's also very important that you have a close collaboration with each head of department, so they are heavily involved in driving the revenue with the help from revenue management.
If you look at, if a question pops up later, I'm not so sure about this, always the question, what are the key success factors to make TRM work? You realize, I think along the slides already, one aspect pops up all the time. Let's say two aspects. There are a bit more, but one big aspect is data. If you don't have data, you cannot identify your high spenders, you cannot identify any patterns, you cannot plan forward, you cannot forecast. And the second thing is collaboration. You know, you cannot do it on your own, you have to work together as a team. So these both are already key success factors to make TRM work. customer segments, Anders?
Yeah, so we are sort of pretty good in segmentation in hotels, and again, we need the data and we need to identify the different segments, and a good starting point for understanding segments is the reason for travel to the destination and why they actually need the accommodation. And we are still talking about hotels. So the room sales is the core business of the hotel, and it all starts there. But then there will be local audience also coming to the restaurants and for meetings and events and spa and or other services. So the customer segmentation needs to be a little bit updated in order to also include local audiences coming into the hotel to other facilities and outlets. And then if we move on to technology and processes, that is also something that needs to be in the plan in order to be able to work with total revenue management. Maybe you need another system, or you need a data lake, or you need Excel sheets or systems or so. You have to find out what type of information do you need, how do you need that, what type of reporting do you need, real data in some cases, and so on. And the system needs to also support dynamic pricing, or at least give you input to how dynamic pricing could work, and then you can start to experiment with that. And also if it could indicate something about personalized offers to optimize revenue from all the sources, and in the holistic view that you have a full understanding of the guest spending, and then you can plan on that and forecast what type of guests are coming in, and how would that affect all the different departments.
Yep. And we move on to roles and responsibilities. Okay.
Yeah. So sales, marketing, and revenue management. So that's the commercial team in the hotel. So normally they've all been focused more or less 100% on the hotel part. But this is also important to widen their perspective and have a more holistic view of attracting customers and maximize the sale to each customer or to each guest. I think maybe sales is the one that is more holistic than anyone else of these roles, because sales sell meetings and events, for example, and that includes a lot of food and beverage and rooms, and it's more the holistic view. So I think we could learn some things from sales also in terms of how to actually approach the customer and sell the right things to the customer. And then marketing should be much more involved in creating campaigns, both targeted for visitors coming into the destination and attracting guests to the hotel, but also marketing to the local audience in order to get them to use all the facilities in the hotel. And revenue management should be maybe more sort of an advisor to the different revenue sources or revenue generating departments in order to help them to increase the revenue.
Absolutely. If we move on to the performance metrics, what to measure and how to measure revenue uplift, the increase in revenue from all the revenue sources compared to the previous period. Quite simple, but very successful. customer satisfaction is a big issue because the danger of revenue management, but also respectively total revenue management, is definitely that we should try anything to annoy our customers. By the way, if you run pure revenue management, let's say rooms only, you have a quite good chance to annoy your customers, to create customer dissatisfaction. Take just the example, sorry, about your loyal customers or loyal customers in the loyalty program, which will be confronted with dynamic pricing in peak periods sometimes. So it's sometimes a mismatch per se. So customer satisfaction is another angle, another metric we have to look at this. And of course, also data-driven decision making, you know, to really look at the numbers, the effectiveness of data-driven decisions. Therefore, the question pops up later also in the Q&A session. I've seen it with the chat function. Are there systems already there on the market which are supporting TRM? I would argue not really. You have still to work with some plug-in solutions, add-on solutions, but you can start with this. And I think, Anders, you mentioned this also sometimes Excel spreadsheets, you know, as much as we should try to avoid this. But as a starting point, it might be, especially if you talk about a small hotel or maybe few smaller hotels or small regional chain, it might be still a solution, because we are waiting in a certain way from the industry supplier vendor sides, you know, come up with a real TRM solution. There are some attempts, but it's not all that good, integrated, synchronized, etc. Now, action plan, Anders, you developed an action plan for each quarter.
Yeah, so the point here is that you cannot do everything at the same time. So getting started with the total revenue management, look at the next year and put together an action plan with the main things that you should accomplish for each quarter. So it starts with market analysis and identify ideal customer segments. And now it's not only for the hotel, it's for all the different revenue generating departments. And then you probably need to find some kind of system set up for total revenue management, and also think through the processes. Detlev is right that there is no complete system for total revenue management, and there will probably never be a complete system for a hotel. I think a lot of hoteliers have had their dreams about the PMS, that could be the system for hotels and capable of doing everything. But a normal full service hotel with a lot of different facilities need about between 50 and 60 different systems in order to manage the business correctly. So you have to look into that and see how you can go about that. And then you start to work with the dynamic pricing and personalized offers for rooms and all the others, like food and beverage, meetings and events and so on. And then you start to monitor and evaluating the total revenue management. So you will see how that progresses, and you will probably pretty early see good results from implementing total revenue management. So it's and that will be encouraging, and then you will be able to take the next steps and experiment a little bit more and be a bit more brave and work more with dynamic pricing and so on, and it will evolve over time.
To conclude this masterclass, we have many discussions here in Singapore, but also Southeast Asia and Anders in Europe as well, with hotel chains, with individual hotels, and with other stakeholders. And from this, what we gather information, intelligence, it looks like that maybe the individual hotels and the smaller regional chains will be the front runner implementing TRM. They are maybe more open for this. They have maybe less structure, organizational issues. So the right size maybe to start with. We see some promising examples. The key success factor, as I mentioned, is definitely for each and every project is planning. Planning is key. If you don't plan it properly, it will not work out in your favor. Data quality, big issue. Not the sheer amount of data, but it's the quality of the data which makes difference. And again, this is part of a planning process, to make sure we have your proper data management system and then data analytics system, etc. And as we mentioned with several times in this masterclass, it's really a shift from inventory centric to customer centric. So customers are this focus area, and therefore we might see in the medium to long term future, hopefully earlier than later, maybe even the shift to a new metric from RevPAR, revenue per available room, to RevPAC, revenue per available customer, because customers are our assets. And there are two and maybe a bit more ways to look at TRM, total revenue management practice, but we focus on the customer as asset, and to keep him, to understand him, to keep him, to retain him, and to squeeze the most out of his wallet is at his pleasure. Okay, that's important aspect. He must honor this, he must value this. That's the way I think we should go, and that's the future. It was an interesting session.
Yeah, I can add something here also, that what we have seen from our customers that use demand calendar is that there is a need, especially from resorts, because they have a lot of different revenue generating departments, and they also are much more guest focused, because the whole idea with the resort is to bring a guest into the resort and then make the guest buy everything in the resort. When you operate a hotel in a city center location, it's more like it's more focused on the rooms. You still have your different facilities, but it's not that sure that the hotel guest will actually use all your other facilities, because the supply of other options in the city is huge. So you have so many different restaurants to choose from, and you can have meeting places in every corner, basically, or in other places as well. So I think a front runner might be resorts, that they start to work with total revenue management before other hotels. But then it's that is also interesting to see. So and then I would really like also to see what Detlev is talking about, if we could move towards a metric called the RevPAC or something like that, or what we haven't mentioned in the seminar yet is the customer lifetime value. So metrics that are more customer centric metrics as well.
Time for Q&A. Jackie, would you like to bring some questions up which you have collected already? I think so. Jackie, I think you're muted.
Sorry about that. Yes, I've got a few questions.
Great.
Okay. I think you covered a bit about the software providing TRM solutions and which PMS is supported by this. I think you covered that, do you think? Or do you want to?
Yeah, there are actually some PMSs that are more that are easier to work with in terms of total revenue management, and those are the PMSs that have functions for more revenue sources. So rooms, food and beverage, meeting and events, spa. There are very few of those around the world, maybe a handful. but that could be a way for resorts, for example, to use that type of PMSs. But normally it's the trend is totally opposite, that you buy the core functionality only in the PMS, and then you add a lot of partner software for each specific revenue source, and they should work pretty good together.
Okay, good. What about what is the latest trend in AI towards TRM? Heard any news on that?
Yeah, I can start with that also. Actually, I wrote a blog post.
Of course you did. Of course you wrote a
couple of
blog
days
post
ago about that, and I think the only way forward to work with AI in the hotel industry is to get the data quality right, because AI is depending on data. There is no other way forward than getting the data correct and sort. It doesn't have to be 100% correct, because that could be corrected by AI, but it has to be substantially good, at least, and that's a huge challenge for the hotel industry. So if we want to use our own data to apply a lot of different AI applications, then we need to start to work on that. If otherwise, the other way around is actually to trust third-party data, like our favorite friends, Booking and Expedia and all these guys, because they will collect the data. They will make sure that the data quality is pretty okay, and then we will buy from them or continue to strengthen our relationship with them.
Regarding AI and revenue management, okay, we have one area where we see already application of AI. This is forecasting. If you look at ideas and the other RMS providers, they already integrated artificial intelligence in revenue management forecasting solutions. That's okay. But Anders makes a point. It's all about training data, trained data. So it means it's in a certain way past data. And then with the aspect of supervised, unsupervised machine learning, they developed their own methodology to move it forward to hopefully some worthwhile results. So it's there in one area, forecasting, where it's already applied and working quite well. If you talk about, for example, AI in hospitality tourism from a customer perspective, when we talk about marketing, we talk about, for example, customers using Booking.com, Expedia, but also hotel platforms, that they get ideas for a whole vacation planning, whatever, including prices and availability, whatever. This works, but also based on the past data. Now, TRM is, I don't see it yet that we see a really AI solution for TRM only, but the future might bring it. That's possible, yeah.
Yeah.
But
Okay.
I can add something in the blog post. I actually collected a lot of quotes from hotel mega chain CEOs, and they all believe in AI, and they say that AI can help hotels improve the guest experience, increase efficiency, and reduce costs. And they all said basically the same thing. So there is a huge belief in AI that will solve all the problems in the hotel industry.
Well, maybe, Anders, if you can send me the link, I'll send it out to everybody. For everybody who's registered, I'll send them out the link to the recording, the white paper, so they can download if they haven't got it already. And then maybe you can add your blog post in there, and I'll send that with it, so everyone can read all about it. And I think the only other one, which maybe is a different class, is someone has asked, I would like to learn more practical steps on optimizing our TREV.
Optimize?
TREV.
TREV part.
Total revenue,
yeah,
I gather.
revenue management.
Total revenue,
yeah.
yeah.
definitely. Okay, if I step in, first of all, because this came also as a question at our masterclass at the ROC conference in Singapore, what are the, let's say, first 3 steps, whatever. It's planning. You have to plan, and when getting the customers, the stakeholders involved as a collaboration. Then it's about creating a yield culture, because it must be bring through the lines up to the frontline staff, etc. They have to execute it in the end of the day, and it's about data quality. Now, in order to improve TRevPAR, and it means we go for a kind of holistic approach. It means we take the spending of a high profile customer, and we want to see also that the spending goes up in gastronomy, whatever, you know. It starts, first of all, maybe he's doing so, but we forgot, or we don't have ability to track it, to trace it, to track it, whatever. So it's about, again, data quality and data accuracy. And then, of course, also planning. When the marketing sales team come in, you would be surprised how many customers are not even aware of the amenities in a hotel. So this is a pure marketing function to make customer aware of this. This goes, in a certain way, it goes beyond TRM. In a certain way, from my view, it is part of TRM. And it sounds so silly and so stupid, but I love such stuff anyway. The silly, stupid stuff, the basic stuff, it's for me, I love it, because this is too often forgotten. We dream of AI and forget our basic stuff we should do better. As I said, the example of promoting, for example, our spa, our amenities, whatever. Again, take the example of my hotel, which I stay now regular in Bangkok, in Thailand. You know, they have a wonderful spa, but you would not know about the spa if you're not really checking actively the guest map on your desk in your hotel room. But I tell you, I don't give you ideas what I do in my hotel room, but the least thing is to check the guest map on my hotel room. Yeah, I switch on the television and I watch the news, and I prepare myself for my next business meeting, but I don't check actively the desk on my hotel room, you know, for the amenities, whatever. So it's up to us to make it work. And I tell you, in a certain way, short-term results, if you want to improve your TRevPAR, make customers and staff also aware of the amenities, promote them actively with some maybe a bit out of the box activities, and you will see already an increase in TRevPAR, that's for sure.
Great. Thanks for the summary at the end. That's perfect. Okay, well, thank you both for putting so much time into putting the session together. And we'll get all the assets out to everyone so you can review and replay the bits that you want to hear again, and share with your colleagues. And then we'll look forward to the next TRM session, which will be on the 19th of October. So we'll let everybody know when that's coming up. Okay.
Perfect.
Thank you again. And thanks everybody for spending the time. I see everyone is still here at the end of the session, so that's a really good sign. Thanks, everybody.
Okay, thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.